Hello children, today we're going to read a story. Have a look at the cover. What do you think it might be about? Yes, it's about a cat and a granny, and the title is Mog and the Granny. The author, or the person who wrote the book, is Judith Kerr. When the schools are open again and the libraries, you'll be able to choose books that you like. And one way to do that is to have a look at something called a blurb on the back of the book. I'm going to read the blurb on this book now. It says, the Thomas family are going on holiday. You can't come, Mog, but you're going to a nice granny's house. It sounds safe enough, but no one warned her about Tibbles. Sounds like an interesting book, doesn't it? There are some words in the book that you might find a bit tricky, so let's have a look at those now. Here somebody is doing some packing. It's when you put all of your clothes into a suitcase ready to go on holiday. These are some skyscrapers. Skyscrapers are very tall buildings. This is a postcard. When you're on holiday, you can buy a postcard and it will have a picture of the place that you're visiting on it. On the back of the postcard, you can write a letter to someone you love, like your grandma or granddad, and you can tell them all about your holiday. You put it in the postbox and then grandma and granddad will receive it. This is a yard. It's an area outside your house where you can hang your washing up or keep your bike. There might be some plants in the yard, but there isn't usually a lawn. It's just paving. These are Red Indian people, or as they're known now, Native Americans. They were the first people to live in America. They often wear headdresses made of feathers. Now we're ready to start the book. Mog and the Granny by Judith Kerr. One day, Mog was waiting for Debbie to come home from school. Mog always knew when Debbie was coming. She didn't know how she knew, she just knew. Suddenly, a picture would come into her head of Debbie coming down the road, and then she would go to meet her. Debbie said, "School's all finished for the summer, Mog. Isn't it exciting?" Mog said nothing. She didn't like things to be exciting. She liked them to be the same. Inside the house, everyone was excited too. Mrs. Thomas was packing. Mr. Thomas was looking for something important. Nicky was dancing and singing a song he'd made up. We're going to America where the skyscrapers are. We're not going by train, but on an aeroplane. We'll see all the sights and it will all be very surprising because they have their days when we have our nights. Debbie said, "You can't come, Mog." "But you're going to a nice granny's house. She'll look after you till we come back." The next day, Mog went to the granny's house. The granny was very old with very thin legs. At first Mog thought she had 3 legs, and then she saw one of them was a stick. "What's the stick for?" "Yes, it's to help the grandma to walk." Debbie said, "Goodbye, dear Mog." And the granny said, "I'll look after Mog, and she'll have my Tibbles for company." Mog thought, "Tibbles? Nobody told me there'd be another cat. At least he sounds quite small." Well, Tibbles had been small to start with, but then he had grown. "Here's a little friend for you," said the granny. Tibbles liked surprising people, and he liked Mog's basket. The granny said, "Don't be silly, Tibbles. Let Mog have her basket, and you can sleep on my bed." Children, how do you think Mog is feeling? I don't think she's sad. I think she's a little bit cross or annoyed. Mog sat in her basket, but she couldn't sleep. She thought of her house. She thought of Debbie. Suddenly, a picture of Debbie came into her head. Debbie was in a high place, and there were even higher places all around. It was all too high. Mog didn't think Debbie should be there. What place is Mog thinking about? Yes, he's thinking of Debbie in America on a skyscraper. Look at the picture at the top of the page. What's happened? Yes, Mog has woken the granny up. "Whatever is the matter, Mog?" said the granny. "You better come and snuggle up with us." A few days later, the postman brought a card. "It's from Debbie," said Granny. "She's been to the top of a skyscraper." Mog thought the card smelled of Debbie. Tibbles didn't have a card. He had tea in a saucer instead. He was very fond of tea. Tibbles had an open window instead of a cat flap. He had a yard to play in. And sometimes Mog and Tibbles played together. Sometimes they chased each other, and sometimes they liked each other, and sometimes they didn't. The granny gave them nice food to eat. She went to the shops to buy it. They always had the same, but they always thought the other ones was nicer. The first time that the granny went shopping, Mog had a big surprise. The granny no longer had a stick. She had wheels instead. The granny had a mobility scooter to get around. It's a little bit like a car, but it goes a lot slower and it's allowed to go on the pavements. She gave Tibbles a ride. "What about you, Mog?" said the granny. But Mog thought the wheels were too surprising. One day the granny put out her best teacups. She said, "We're going to have a party." It was very hot, so they had a party in the yard. A lot of other grannies came. They were surprised to see Mog. And the granny told them about Mog's people. She said, "They've been all over America, and now they're ending up at a special Red Indian show." The granny stayed a long time. Mog got very tired. She thought of Debbie, and she wondered what Red Indians were. Suddenly, a picture of Debbie came into her head. Debbie was smiling at a big bird. Mog knew it was a bird because it had feathers. But it had a face like a person. It was a person bird. And there were more person birds nearby. Why was Debbie smiling? Those big person birds might fly away with her and hurt her. Was it a bird with Debbie? No, it was the Native American, wasn't it? And how do you think Mog is feeling? Yes, she's worried or scared, isn't she? She's anxious. Mog wanted to save Debbie. She did a big jump. Tibbles liked tea inside him, not outside. Oh dear, said the granny. Look, Mog spilled the tea. Oh dear, said all the other grannies, and your best cup too. And then they went home. That night, Mog did not sleep in a granny's bed. She was too sad. And she was still sad in the morning. She thought of Tibbles and the granny being upset. And she thought of Debbie and the person birds. Why is Mog sad? Yes, she broke the cup, didn't she? And she's missing Debbie. Suddenly, a picture of Debbie came into her head. The person birds had not hurt her at all. Instead, they had given her some of their feathers and a baby person bird as a present. She was smiling and excited, and she was coming home. Mog thought, I must be there to meet her. And so she ran out of the yard and across a road and down another road. Ah, look at that dog. She went up a tree, and after a time the dog went home. Mog wanted to go home too, but she couldn't get down from the tree. She tried this way and that way, but she was stuck, and it was getting late, and Debbie would be coming home. Mog thought, there's nobody to help me. But there was somebody. Quick, Mog, jump, said the granny, and Mog jumped. We'll have to get a move on, said the granny. We haven't much time, said the granny. I think we can just make it, said the granny. And they did. When Debbie got home, Mog was there to meet her. We've never had such excitement, said the granny. Mog will have to come and stay with Tibbles again. Mog said nothing. She didn't like things to be exciting. She liked them to be the same. Did you like the book? What was your favourite part? My favourite part was when Mog got the postcard from Debbie, because she sniffed it, and that showed that she really missed her. Were there any parts of the book that you didn't like? I didn't like it when the naughty dog chased after Mog. You wouldn't do that, would you, Space Dog? No. And were there any parts of the book that you found a bit puzzling? Yeah, I thought the bit with the native Indians was a bit puzzling because I don't know much about native Indians. I've drawn a picture of my favourite part of the book. It's when Mog got the postcard, and at the top I've written a sentence. It says, Mog got a postcard. Maybe you could draw your favourite part of the book today. Maybe write a sentence to say what's happening. Well, that's all we have time for today. I'll see you again tomorrow for some more learning. Goodbye.